a law. So what can change? What can change regarding what they are really asking the government to do? To help us unpack all this, we have next to me is Ju Halende, who is a lawyer, and then at the far end is Meshach Odede, a political analyst. So we've had let me start with you, Meshach. We've had Martha Karua saying that today is the day. And of course, on Monday, which was yesterday, the bill already became law after President William Ruto signed it. So, and we've seen a lot of people criticizing Azimio leaders and asking, why is there any need to lead any demonstrations, considering that the bill has already become law and nothing can change? Maybe you can tell us why this rally is important and what are some of the expectations?
Thank you, Purity. I don't even think it is about the rally. I think it is about the reason why they are gathering. So, I mean, there are times when people gather even for leisure, people gather for anything, but the reason for gathering is the most important thing.
Yeah.
For those who are saying it could be late, there could be no reason for this, I think probably might not understand that there are options from A to Z, always in governance. There are options from A to Z. And the reason why everybody goes out there applauding and saying the Kenyan Constitution is one of the best compared to other constitutions globally is because it gave Kenyans, the common man, opportunities from A to Z.
Yeah.
So the president, yes, had put his signature and it's a law, but the courts are still open because any Kenyan is allowed to go and challenge any clause in that finance bill that probably contradicts some parts of the constitution or other existing laws that were there before.
Yeah.
That is one. The other option is people gathering to agree either to stop any agitation or agree to push forward for the sections that they think as people that would be dangerous to their existence. So when they agree that this section and that section does not make us happy at all as Kenyans, they have another option that they can follow. They can even go again and do another memorandum or whatever, how do you call them, Joe, to Parliament. So Parliament can still look into what Kenyans are agitating about.
Yeah.
So those are still other options are there. So the other option that I know they fear a lot is the option that Raila Odinga, the Azimio team, and the Azimio supporters may decide to demonstrate and picket here and there across the country, and that is what is dreaded in that corner. So I think that would just come when it has been proven beyond any reasonable doubt that no one is listening. And from the route we have taken, it kind of looks like no one is listening, because people who went before the Committee of Finance to put in their recommendation, it seems like more than 90% of those recommendations were not taken. Only a percentage, a small percentage was taken and probably factored in.
Yeah.
So I think that is why it is not right to say there is no need for gathering, there is no need to do this. There is still need to do this, because if you realize you are walking barefoot and you have been pricked by a thorn, you can't say there is no need, it's too late, it's already inside your skin.
All right.
So just continue walking.
Yeah, Joe, a section of leaders allied to the Kenya Kwanza have been criticizing the Azimio leaders, especially ahead of their meeting today, that, you know, it's too late to do this. So maybe what options do they have? And do you, are you of the same opinion that they should just move on?
One of the things that we need to appreciate as a people in this country is that we gave ourselves a transformative constitution that gives everybody, every individual in this country, his right. And ODM, Azimio, per se, or Raila and the supporters, they are within their right to enjoy those rights, to picket, demonstrate, so long as it's peaceful and unarmed. And I want to categorically echo this sentiment that nobody in Kenya Kwanza is against Azimio going for a meeting, Azimio doing demonstrations. Yeah. We support that. But we must be careful and we must be within the Constitution. The demonstrations or the meeting must be peaceful and unarmed. And they must stop distracting people's property, and even to some extent they end people's livelihood and lives. So that's the caution that ODM and Raila must live within. But also to
is
add
it
to
ODM or Azimio?
It's ODM. It's no longer Azimio. And what my good friend Meshach has not told you, he has tried to explain the reasons why they are going to have a rally today. The major reason is that there's a major fallout in ODM. They may not want to say it, but whatever they are using as it's an excuse. It's just a smoke screen. But deep down in ODM, we know there are two factions. There's pro-development in ODM, and there's pro-status quo. Those are the two factions that are fighting. Karoli Omondi, Jalango, Professor Chomo Dienda are leading one team, and there's that team of status quo headed by their Secretary General, Sifuna. So those are the factions that are fighting within ODM, and it's their fight. For us, we don't want to interfere with their fight, because in Kiswahili huwa anasema vita vya ni furaha ya nani.
But you know, we can't substantiate that, because ahead of the rally, Azimio said that there are a number of issues that they were opposed to in the finance bill, which was one, VAT increment on petroleum products. We know that we now will have to deal with 16% VAT on petroleum products from the 1st of July, and they are also opposed to other things, including introduction of the withholding tax on payments. So let's talk about the options now they have. Yes, as a lawyer.
Let me substantiate why I said that ODM it's facing a major fallout, and they're trying to scramble and assemble their troops. One, they led us and initiated bipartisan talk. As Kenya Kwanza, we have never left the negotiating table. We have never issued ultimatum. We have never reintroduced other issues. They have left the negotiating table. They have reintroduced other issues. They have given us ultimatum. We went for the vote. Immediately after the election, Azimio were telling us they have numbers. Their numbers were put to task. They failed to turn up. They failed to produce those numbers. And part and parcel of their members in ODM voted for this progressive finance bill. We are facing challenges as a country. We had massive corruption. We had huge debt as a national conversation. We were borrowing left, right, and center. Our economy was in shambles. We needed a turnaround. We needed a finance bill. We needed a drastic measure that can change the trajectory of this country. Those are among our measures that we have put on the table, and Kenyans have looked at it. Their representatives looked at it in parliament and voted for it. So what we can only do as a country is have focus and support the president with his government, so that we can initiate this development program. But one thing that I am happy about ODM and about Raila Odinga, that at the end of the day, he will put Kenya Kwanza to task to explain each and every necessary step or agenda we are putting on the table. That is one thing that all of us as a country, we must support it. That's why even in Kenya Kwanza we said that as much as everybody has his freedom, everybody must enjoy his freedom to that limit that he doesn't infringe the other person's
all right, and I'm not sure what your comment is, but I'll get back to you, because during demonstrations, at some point we saw the demonstrators were not even at any point allowed to gather. So I'm not sure about now the right to picket, because they were not even given a chance, not all the time, but as some instances where they were not even given time to demonstrate whether they are going to picket peacefully or it's going to be chaotic. But let me get back to you. I've seen you wanted to comment, especially. He says that today's rally is not about issues affecting Kenyans, but it's about the wrangles within the ODM party. Yesterday, of course, we saw MPs, senators rather, allied to the Kenya Kwanza, voting in favor of the Deputy Deputy Governor of Siaya County. And this morning, I'll read that tweet. I saw Senator of Nandi, Senator Kiprotich, saying that we will not allow, let me just quote what he said this morning, that, as I said, William Odor remains a deputy governor of Siaya. Impeachment proceedings at Senate finds him not guilty. In Parliament, we shall not allow Tinga Azimio Oka to win on anything. So this brings me to the question on when they were voting on the finance bill, we saw MPs allied to the Azimio walking out. All right. So, and Kenyans called them traitors, they were bought and all that. Were they in support of this bill? And then again, Azimio said that they were going to issue a statement on the disciplinary action that should be taken against them. We haven't seen that yet. So does this confirm what Joe is saying, that this rally is not about the issues, but it's about the infighting within the Azimio coalition or ODM party? Yeah.
Thanks, Purity. I never thought, it doesn't take me by surprise that anybody from Kenya Kwanza does not want any discussion on the content of that bill. Every other time I have been in any panel across media houses, the discussion must be shifted to Raila Odinga as an individual and other things, which to Kenyans means nothing, but not directly on the bill and its content. I would have wished that we delve more into the content of that bill and why those particular clauses make Kenyans agitated. And
we are getting to that.
Agitated. But unfortunately, when you bring including lawyers from Kenya Kwanza, they will shift that. And you've just read a tweet. I think I also saw the tweet. When a person at the stature of Senator Cherargei of Nandi, a whole lawyer, is telling you that his vote is just about Raila Odinga and nothing to do with the content that is being discussed, it means we lack Senate as we had envisaged in the Constitution, and we lack National Assembly, which would assess things in terms of their content. We have a National Assembly which is ruled by executive on the other side and maybe other party leaders on this other side. But at this point in time, Kenyans are out here thinking that they have representatives in that house who they would converse with and say, if 8% on VAT on fuel is already tough enough for us, how can we talk about 16%? So that could have been the conversation. But we have a conversation in the House where it is us versus them, and then Kenyans are missing in the middle here. Like, nobody is now speaking, because every one of them claims to be speaking for Kenyans, while Kenyans on cameras are speaking other things. So what I would want to say is, at this point in time, we don't think this thing can be taken further by Parliament as would have been expected. He is talking about the bipartisan talks. We know the intrigues in that bipartisan. We have a team from Kenya Kwanza, and it was said very well in the cameras that we have a team from Kenya Kwanza who cannot make any slightest decision on that table. And they are here to represent Kenya Kwanza. So whatever you put on the table, let's discuss this, and a decision is to be made. They have to go out and look for the bosses and converse before they make that decision. So the side of ODM and by extension the larger Azimio felt like it's either you change, you get the people who can make decision on this table, or give the people on this table powers enough to make some decision, accept the decisions that are so huge that probably would require them to go back to. Because the team that was sent to the table by Azimio were given some leeway up to a certain extent. And so not every time, including small things, they had to go back to convene Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka and the team to have them, help them make those decisions. So as a team, I don't think we are going to crack anything with that bipartisan. But coming back to this demonstration, which they're already talking about, and nobody has talked about demonstration. We've only talked about, can we, now that the bill has been passed, the president has put his signature. It is supposed to be a law.
Yes.
So can we live with that law? That's the question the Azimio Brigade wants to gather Kenyans somewhere and ask, are you willing to live with that law as it is? Because laws are, it is not written on stone. Anything can be reversed. So the question we need to put to Kenyans out there is, if you are willing to live with that law as it is, then so be it. So we may gather at Kamkunji and throw the question, and when the people say we want it that way, that's okay. Then what do? You let them go home and say it is done. But if the people say we cannot live with this law, then this is where leadership comes in, and we now say, how do we go about it?
Yeah.
How do we retrace our way back to a place where Kenyans can now say we're a bit comfortable here?
And Joe, let's talk about, you mentioned that, of course, we need to turn around the economy. We had the leaders speak before this conversation on that report by my colleague Grace Nganga, that Azimio leaders saying that the government did not listen to Kenyans while trying to pass this bill, and therefore, again, how do you explain increasing VAT, 16% VAT on petroleum products? Yes, we want to turn around the economy, but Kenyans are asking, why then did the government, if really they want to turn around the economy, double, for example, the number of CASs in the Kenya Kwanza administration? It's not adding up for many Kenyans. Maybe you can tell us why.
The issue about the 16% VAT on fuel, one thing that Kenyans need to be told the truth is this, that this was a deal that the government of Uhuru Kenyatta entered with the IMF. Because whenever the big boys called IMF and World Bank are in town, they will always give you a restructuring program. And this deal was signed between Uhuru's government and IMF when they wanted help from IMF. And they were told part and parcel of the condition is that you must increase your VAT. So it is part and parcel of that deal. And you remember the last finance bill from Uhuru Kenyatta, it had that 16% VAT deal. But until some Kenyan went to court, it was stopped. So it is part and parcel of restructuring our economy and the deal that we entered with the IMF.
It was stopped because Kenyans felt that it's going to burden them.
Yes,
but then
at that time.
Actually, it was shut down in Parliament, not just court.
It was passed in Parliament, and I remember it was a handshake government which passed it, which was led by Gladys Wanga.
Yeah, they passed it, but then
it was not
Kenyans are not comfortable.
Yes,
but then President Ruto is returning what Kenyans did not agree with.
Not what. You see, as a people, we ratify, we must have our decisions here in Kenya. But some of other ratified treaties that we enter into, they become part and parcel of our law. So by having an agreement with the IMF, that ratification makes that 16% bill becomes our law.
Yeah.
So it is part and parcel of that. Second of it, you asked a question on how, what was it?
Yeah, how do you explain that the government really wants to turn around the economy, but when you look at the appointments, they're literally doubling the positions? Yeah.
It is under the discretion of the president to choose the people whom he feels that will assist him to deliver his promises. So that is part and parcel of the decision that President William Ruto made. But forget about that. How are we turning around this economy since William Ruto took power? One, he has assured judiciary. He has allocated money to judiciary from 14 billion to 22 billion. He has taken the money that was being hoarded at the office of Minister of Interior, manipulating the police. He has given the police the autonomy to control their budget. So we must realize that as Kenyans, the independence of judiciary is assured, the independence of our police force is assured. So in any case, any dispute we have in this country, judiciary and the police are independent. No interference from the executive. 2, we promise Kenyans that we are going to give them hustler fund. President Ruto has assured that. He appointed the 6 judges that Uhuru Kenyatta had left out. Within William Ruto's government, he managed to register 5 million farmers. As we speak today, 222 hectares of land has been farmed. We are waiting for the bumper harvest. As we speak now, we have managed to ensure that in our budget, in the last previous budget, we used to have deficit of 1 trillion. In this year budget that we are talking about, that my friend wants to discuss, that he needs to highlight, is that this finance bill has a deficit of 700 billion compared to last year, which had 1.1 trillion.
Yeah.
So we are turning around our economy. Another beautiful thing about this budget and this finance bill that my brother will not highlight is that all those commodities that we have been importing and leading to our local people not to create jobs, how the taxes have been increased. Taxes have been increased on paint, taxes have been increased on fish and its product, taxes have been increased on other commodities like sugar, which was being imported, leading to our farmers dying in misery. So from our end, we can highlight issues within the budget that are going to promote, that are going to assist us to create jobs for the local managers.
All right, and we shall pick